sword. Haha. Time to go to work, guys.
When I was about 13 years old, I had a demo of this weird game for PlayStation 2 called Devil May Cry. I remember it felt kind of like a weird 3D take on Resident Evil, the first 3 games of which I'd spent previous years playing to death. But this was different in that it had such an extreme over-the-top focus on action. Even just picking up an item had these incredibly cool transition scenes. But more than that, I remember how good the guns felt. I'd never played a game before where just firing a weapon felt so cool. Launching an enemy into the air and having them endlessly suspended by sustained fire from a pair of pistols, or laying down an infinitely satisfying blast from a double-barreled shotgun. Eventually, at a local computer swap meet, I discovered that the full game had been released, which I happily took home and played through in its entirety. I enjoyed it a ton, but I have to admit that my fondest memories of the title definitely stemmed from those hours upon hours of repeated playthroughs of that initial trial edition. From here, time passed, I gravitated away from the series, and my love for it was mostly reinvigorated with the release of Bayonetta, a series I adore to this day, even going so far as to buy entire consoles just to play the latest release. I felt confident that I wouldn't really cross paths with Devil May Cry again. Despite managing to find copies of almost every entry in the series over my years of garage sales and op shopping, I'd never actually found time to play them. This was until a completely unexpected package arrived, giving me an early chance to check out the latest title in the series, Devil May Cry 5, on my PS4 Pro. Considering the game was still a ways from release, this chance to play the title was excitement enough to convince me to dive in. So, having not played a game in the series since the first, all I knew going in was that the 4th entry had introduced a new character named Nero, but other than that, I was going in completely blind. The game's immediate prologue chapter dumped a situation into my lap which immediately made me feel like I'd missed a ton of important events, and coupled with the bland hellscape environment it had me trudging through, it had me worried that maybe this wasn't going to go well. However, it quickly became obvious once the game's introduction proper began that I was basically as up to speed as could be expected, and the chronology of events was simply non-linear. I'd go on to spend the next hour or so finding out how everything I'd just seen had come about. Not only that, but any concerns I had with regard to a lack of interesting environments or stylish flair were dashed when something as typically as mundane as the opening credits turned into what is easily one of the coolest cutscenes in video game history. And so from here, the game had me pushing through waves of demons, bosses, and a little light puzzling that all comes together to create such a wonderfully satisfying experience. Every quiet moment had me eagerly waiting for the next time I'd be interrupted by an enemy encounter just to hammer out another wave of stylish action.
Sorry, but I can read all your moves.
The game was quick to give me control over newcomer V, whose mechanics are a dramatic departure from anything I'd seen in the genre. Playing as V, I was required to keep my distance from direct combat, with my melee and ranged attack buttons instead being mapped to give commands to Shadow and Griffin, V's associates, who do the majority of the work here. Moving the analog stick obviously moves V around the battlefield, keeping him safe from damage, but this is also used to issue attack commands, whereas combinations of directional and action buttons will command Shadow and Griffin to perform complex actions. This all works so well that it's honestly unbelievable. Taking a backseat to combat and being relegated to a remote commander in a third-person high-octane action game sounds like an impossible task, but Devil May Cry 5 has managed to turn this into what is absolutely my favourite fighting style in the game.
Await now.
The more familiar Nero and Dante get their share of game time as well, and although my overall unfamiliarity with the series makes it difficult for me to appreciate what's old and new when it comes to their core mechanics, I had no trouble getting comfortable with the vast array of playstyles for which each of the characters allows. However, coming off the back of what truly made me fall in love with the original demo all those years ago are the guns. When I first got control of Dante, I spent a silly amount of time just panning the camera around and firing that shotgun at nothing at all, absolutely adoring that rush of nostalgia. Despite quite happily moving away from the series to other titles in the genre over the years, Devil May Cry 5 absolutely rekindled those things that I didn't even know I was missing this whole time. As you can imagine, combat gets wonderfully complex as the game progresses, with abilities and weapons being unlocked, purchased, and sometimes just discovered in the environment. The more esoteric of these I'll leave for you to discover if you do take the time to play through the title. What I can say is that I absolutely love the way this campaign plays out, with an almost road trip vibe, giving off that perfect ragtag team feel to every moment. Nero's business associate Nico is never far behind the group, showing up in the most bombastic ways possible to keep the team powered up and trudging through their adventure, and also playing host to some more familiar faces from earlier in the series as time goes by.
I'll take that.
All in all, I'm so incredibly glad I took the time out to play through Devil May Cry 5, and it has absolutely inspired me to take the preceding titles off my shelf and give them a run through, although I realise now I've never actually picked up a copy of the 4th entry. Who knows, maybe we'll even talk about them here on this channel sometime. Thanks for coming by to check out this video. I created this channel just to give me some space to work on videos outside of what I'm mostly known for on my main channel, without alienating subscribers who aren't interested in hearing about other games that I just want to talk about. I'll throw videos up here from time to time just to chat about something that I want to share with you all, so if you do feel like subscribing, that would be fantastic. Either way, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.